The ancestors from whom we have inherited the mythological tales of Adam and Eve had no interest in scientific evolution or the missing link. They passed on their stories to share their understanding that God created in order to share life with God and with one another. And the Christian life is predicated on understanding the fundamental reality that we are made to be in relationship with God and with one another. Everything else flows from this. Today, Jesus calls us back to the most basic tenet of our Christian identity. And faced with the frustration over the Pharisees trying to test or trap or twist his words, Jesus seems somewhat refreshed in the company of little children. Irritated that the disciples have also turned their hearts, or rather the heart of his message, that Jesus calls the disciples to become like those little children if they want to enter the kingdom. In reply to the Pharisaic investigation on divorce, Jesus tells the disciples that they are looking in the wrong place. And they are altogether missing the point. And he sends them to revisit the basics of the creation story. Historically, there has been a tendency to infer man's superiority over woman in the misreading of today's text from Genesis. There is, however, a more fundamental and radical story of God and humanity here, uncompromising in its opposition to unjust, unhealthy, and sexist relationships. I like the commentary on today's text from Genesis concerning marriage given by Matthew Henry, a British nonconformist minister and author. He wrote, "The man was made of a rib out of the side of Adam, not made out of his head to rule over her, not out of his feet to be trampled upon by him, but out of his side to be equal with him, under his arm to be protected, and near his heart to be loved." In the telling of the creation story, we hear that all humanity was fashioned to be in a relationship, and by divine design, no person was made to be an island, in isolation from the community. Through God's eyes, humanity was only complete in partnership, with interdependence, and without domination or subordination. Our second reading from Hebrews reiterates that we are called into a sacred kinship, a holy relationship with God. And marriages made in heaven reflect that relationship. Granted, not all marriages are made in heaven. My reference is to those that are. The bonds of kinship, our interrelationships, demand that we know and love both God as Father and one another as brother and sister. And this call to kinship is at the heart of the gospel and at the heart of Christian life. Sexism is not only a sin against women, but tears the fabric of our most fundamental reality. We were made to be in holy and healthy relationships with God and with one another. And the reality of our relatedness reminds us strengthening, maintaining, and repairing relationships is a holy and spiritual task indeed. With all people of faith and goodwill, all created, without exception, all created in God's likeness, Let us remember that we are called to live as the brothers and sisters God calls us to be in Christ Jesus, his Son.